Today on Stock Charts in Focus, we're talking process, digging into some of the tools that I personally use on stock charts to manage my watch lists. Now, right now specifically, we've got a lot happening in the markets. We got talk of a recovery, we got talk of maybe a failure at the 200-day moving average, failure at that downtrend. What we do know though is that there are a lot of setups out there that are working. So right now and off into the future, how are you managing your watch list when you're thinking about taking advantage of some of those setups, taking advantage of some of those opportunities that might be emerging? How are you managing those watch lists? We're going to show you how I personally do that on Stock Charts with today's show. So we got a lot to cover. You know what it is. It's all new. It's all here. It's Stock Charts in Focus. All right, my friends, welcome to the show, Stock Charts in Focus. Of course, our product focus show here on the channel where we dig into the site, dive into the tools, walk you through the features, and ultimately help you get more value out of stock charts. That is our mission here on this show. Every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time up on the live channel, also up on our YouTube channel, and of course, the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com. You got lots of ways to watch. My name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com, and today's show, as always, is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to take a step back from some of those new feature ideas that we've been covering, new feature releases and all of that. And on this show, we're going to talk process. Now, if you know me, if you've been following the show for a long time, if you kind of know who I am, you know that I love my job here at Stock Charts because not only do I get to help the team build great financial tools, great charting and technical analysis tools, but I also get to then use those tools in my own approach. I am an active trader, active investor. I've written a couple of investing books, specifically things like Trading for Dummies and Tensile Trading. So on this show, sometimes what we do is we take a step back from those kind of site tutorials and the feature walkthroughs and things like that, and we talk about how to actually apply those. Specifically, I get to share with you guys how I actually apply some of these things in, again, my own approach to the markets. So given what's happening right now, we've got the markets really kind of bouncing higher, now getting rejected a little bit at the 200-day moving average there on the S&P 500. But we've got some really, really interesting things happening in the markets. And most importantly, we've got some sectors, we've got some industries, we've got some individual names that are really working. So I, of course, always am keeping a close eye on what's happening in the markets, but it got me thinking, this would be a great thing to share, kind of how I manage my watch list. As I'm going through the markets, as I'm going through my routines, thinking about setups, thinking about new trade targets that I might want to put on. I have a whole system that I've developed on stock charts, kind of a little bit of an approach there with ChartLists that I wanted to share with you guys. These are going to be some tips, some tricks, things that you can take into your own approach. Might just be fun to see, or you might pick these up and say, hey, that makes a ton of sense for me. I'm going to incorporate that into my own approach as well. So today's show is going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past couple of weeks, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun as we go. So without further ado, let's jump over to Stock Charts and get going. All right, everyone. So we are starting on the members dashboard. I like to call this page the heart and soul of stock charts. It's the first page you see when you log into your account. Most importantly, though, it's one of the best places that you can go to get a handle on your chart lists. Now, if you're kind of new to stock charts, I want to explain what a chart list is. A lot of people are familiar with the concept of a watch list, right? Something that you can save symbols into. A lot of sites have that if they're geared towards finance. Here at Stock Charts, we've taken that concept and sort of spun it a little bit into our own tool. We call them chart lists. The idea, though, is the same. You can save charts into chart lists. Now, the beauty of that is that you can take those chart lists and use them as a way to organize charts. You can also use them, though, as a way to organize symbols. And you can really build your entire approach around chart lists. I've got so much of my trading and investing system built into my chart lists. It is crazy. But chart lists are something that are really kind of at the core of stock charts. It's really sort of one of the most important and powerful features on the site. So when we talk about building a watch list and kind of maintaining a watch list of things that you are watching, trade targets, investment candidates, that kind of thing, the way that we're going to do that is actually with ChartList. So from right here on the members dashboard, I'm going to give this big ChartList button a click, and that's going to scroll me down to our chart lists. Now, we've touched on some of these ideas in the past, but there have been some sort of new things that I've been exploring, some things that have been working for me quite well in the last few months and really the last kind of year. So that's what I wanted to share with you. We've talked about my kind of watch list structure a little bit on the show, but we're going to review that again. So first and foremost, you can see my 3-tiered watch list system right up at the top of the screen. I always love to mention this to people. I have actually custom ordered my chart lists in my account by using a set of symbols. So I've got stars in here. You can see I've got 1 star, 2 star, I've got plus signs, I've got dashes, I've got equal signs and numbers. There's a whole bunch of things here. You can play around with that a little bit in stock charts, but the beauty of this system is that you can actually sort of modify your chart list names to order them in a specific way. Now, some people do this with just numbers. I actually like to use a combination of numbers and symbols. It gives me a little bit more flexibility. You can see that, for instance, here with my weekly review chart list, my daily review chart list. I've got those sort of grouped with symbols and then ordered in a specific way with numbers. The reason I'm going through this is that I've got my watch list right at the very top of all of my chart lists. And that is so that when I'm on the Sharp Charts workbench, for instance, and I want to save something, a new symbol that I've come across, that's actually going to be the first one in the little drop-down menu. It makes it really easy to access. The point is, though, I've actually sort of grouped these together, and then I've ordered them by naming them in a certain way. And it makes it really easy to access, having this be a one-starred chart list. So you can see that I've actually kind of put these right up at the top. They're some of the most important lists in my account, so I want to have those right up at the top. They're followed by the lists that I look at on a weekly and a daily basis, and then followed by the things that I actually sort of own. So one little trick that I highly recommend: create a watch list and label it with a 1 star, a little asterisk. That's going to actually keep it as the first one in your account. It's going to make it really easy to access. If you have not created a chart list yet, if you've not created a watch list yet, super easy to do that right here on the members dashboard. Look for that new label, give that a click, and you can type that into the box. So if you wanted to create, for instance, my watch list, just type that in, my watch list. And I like to sort of wrap it in those symbols as well. So you could create something like that, hit create, and that is going to put that list into your account. So let's pause here for a second and talk about kind of what I've done. I've got 3 watch lists in my account. And the reason for that is that I'm coming across a ton of different symbols, right? There's so many charts out there, so many symbols out there, so many companies out there. When you add ETFs into the mix, there's even more. Now, I actually have a whole separate watch list system for ETFs, but it is basically the exact same thing, just focused on ETFs. In this case, these watch lists are primarily focused on individual stocks. So that's just a little kind of side note as we're going here. But there's so many symbols out there, right? And there's so many setups out there, so many charts that we come across. So how do we kind of stay organized? If we just create one watch list, it can be easy to get lost. So what I've actually done is created a 3-tier system in my own account where I can sort of move things through those tiers. Tier 1, the primary watch list, kind of becomes what I call the dump bucket. Anytime I come across a new symbol that's interesting to me, I can dump it into that Tier 1 watch list, and I'll review it at some point. As long as it's made it into that watch list, it's kind of saved for me for later review. As I'm going through that watch list and I come across the things that are really interesting to me, the setups that are really starting to make sense, I really want to kind of zero in on those and make sure that I'm paying attention to those specific symbols, those specific charts. I can move them from Tier 1 into Tier 2. That's what I call my stocking list. Now, once I get that stocking list fully populated, there might be a whole bunch of things in there. So again, I want to have one more filter, which is, hey, these are my favorites. These are the things that I'm really interested in. these are the ones that I am actively considering taking a position in. So that's my third tier. That is my buying list group. So you can see that reflected here. I've got tier 1, that's just the dump bucket, the watch list. Tier 2, that's the stocking list. And tier 3, that's the buying list. So in my case, I've actually created these 3 lists, and I will move things through those different lists as I sort of go. As I filter that tier 1 watch list down, things will get moved to the stocking list. And as I filter that one down, things will get moved to the buying list. Now, it's really easy to move things between these lists. You can actually do that right from the edit page. Let's demonstrate that really quickly. So if we're in this tier 1 watch list, we hit edit. If we want to move something, we've actually got a couple of different options. We can multi-select a whole bunch of symbols right here, and then we can actually just move that, hit that little move button. You see that says move. This little window is going to pop up, and I can move something, for instance, from the tier 1 watch list over to the tier 2 watch list. I can then do that in reverse. If I want to kick something out of the stocking group, put it back on the sort of the dump bucket watch list, really easy to move these in either direction. So moving charts between lists is actually fairly easy, and that's where it becomes really important to have these 3 different watch lists that I can sort of use as priority orders. Now, the other option that you do have, if you don't want to multi-select things, you've actually got some handy little actions buttons over on the right side of this edit page. So if you've got one specific symbol that you want to move, hit that little move icon, and you can see that's going to pop up. Again, you can move things between your chart lists. So really nice and easy to be able to move these. As I'm going through this tier 1 watch list, when I come across the things that I'm really intrigued in, I can move those over to the stocking list, filter that one down, and then move things to the buying list. So that concept is something that we've touched on a little bit in the past, a bit of a refresher there if you've been around for some of those previous episodes. But one of the new things that I've been playing around with is, again, a starring system, actually customizing the name of these different charts to help you kind of order your work as you go. So as you can see, I'll actually do this right from the edit page. This is a great place to see this. If you look through this list, this is a big, giant list. I mentioned that this is a sort of a dump bucket, that tier 1 watch list. This has 142 symbols in it. Now, you can see, though, that some of these have 1 star in the name. Some of these, as I scroll down, have 2 stars in the name. And others in this big list have 3 stars in the name. So what I've actually done with my personal watch lists, I star everything in the list. I'm going to show you how easy it is to do that in just a second. Now, what that's going to do, as you can see, when you order the chart list by name, it's going to actually keep these in sort of the order that you've starred them. The 1 stars are going to stay up top, the 2 stars are going to stay in the middle, the 3 stars are going to stay down at the bottom. So this allows me to actually go through my tier 1 watch list, star everything as I go, and then use that as an indicator to move to the next list. So I can take all the 1 stars, once I've gone through the entire tier 1 watch list, I can take all the 1 stars and I can move those to, for instance, the buying list, start to filter those out. If I'm trying to filter that list down, I can relabel things as a 2 star, kick it back to the stocking list. I can sort of use those stars in the names of these charts to actually move things through those lists and sort of keep track of where I want things to be. The other benefit of this is that when I add things to the watch list for the first time, when I add a symbol for the very first time, generally that's going to be added with no stars because I'm going to add it from some other place. I'm going to save that chart directly to my tier 1 watch list. Now in this case, this is an active list that I am working on, so nothing falls into this bucket. But imagine that I added Apple to this chart list, for instance. I saved Apple into my tier 1 watch list. That's going to be saved with no stars in the name. So as I'm going through this list, I actually know exactly what is new, what I haven't looked at, because it's going to have no stars. So that's sort of another indicator to me. If anything in this list has no stars in the name, that's an indicator that I need to put that sort of in a priority order, prioritize it amongst the rest of the charts. So really, really easy to actually move these things through. I can just go through, select the charts that I want to move. I can select all of the 1-star charts, move those over to the stocking list or to the buying list, and start to filter things out from there. It's also really helpful when I kick something back from, for instance, the stocking list to the tier 1 watch list. If that has 2 stars on it, I know that I've kicked it from the tier 2 list back to the tier 1 list, the watch list. And so I can sort of keep track of kind of where things have been using this starring system. So really, really nice. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. It's a little convoluted, but as you actually sort of play around with this in practice yourself, it makes a lot more sense. I want to show you how easy it is to modify these names, because this is the exact way that I do this. So I will jump over to something either ChartList view or chart book view when I'm reviewing this tier 1 list. For instance, let's say I jump over to ChartList view. Now as I scroll down, this little header is actually going to be sticky. I like to close that out so that it's not in the way. On ChartList view though, that's going to take all of the charts in that list and basically stack them in an infinitely scrollable list. We used to have a feature called 10 per page that put 10 charts on each page, but we've recently redesigned that to be basically an infinite scrolling list. So you've got all of the charts in your list in ChartList view. Chart book view, very similar, but one at a time. So actually you're just flipping from one chart to the next. So I personally like both. There are different times when I'll sort of choose which one I want to use, but they are very, very similar. So anyways, when I come over to my tier 1 watch list and I want to filter this down, I want to start to sort of cull this down to a more manageable list, I will review these charts, and I will again star the ones that I like and sort of prioritize these charts with that kind of starring system. It's incredibly easy to do this from either ChartList view or chart book view by simply clicking on the name. So you can actually click on the name of the chart in either of those views to edit that saved chart name. So for instance, if I'm in here in ACHC and I want to change the starring of it, you can see this is kind of failing the breakout a little bit, kind of got rejected. So maybe I want to make this more of a 2-star chart. I can just click that, edit that starring name, hit save, and there we go. That is updated now. We can do that with all of the charts in this list. So we can say, okay, AGCO also got kind of rejected at the breakout level. We're going to kick that back to be more of a stocking chart. Air, a bit of the same, but did actually kind of hold the breakout around 47, 48. So that's pretty interesting. This is quite an interesting candle. So maybe we want to leave that one alone. You can see as we go through this list, this is how it works. You can just click on those names to edit those and use that starring system to kind of prioritize things. Now, the other nice part of this is that nothing's actually going to move on you until you reload the page. So these names will be saved, but they actually won't change the order that they're in until you reload or refresh the page. So everything will kind of stay as it is. Now, of course, you can keep comments on these charts. You've got that commenting system right there. If you want to add comments to any of these, again, just give that a click and you can leave comments on those. So you can see, for instance, sometimes I'll keep up a weekly chart in another screen. So I've got my daily chart right here. But for any of these names, if I want to pull up a weekly chart, I'll quickly type that in another window. So I'll leave some notes. For instance, here is a strong long-term trender on the weekly. AME has looked pretty good on the weekly over the long term. Kind of failing the breakout though. Last 2 days have been last 2 or 3 days have been pretty tough for that name. So again, that might be one that I kick to the stocking list. But point is, you can leave those comments on any of those charts in this view. The other nice thing that you can do is actually annotate any of these charts right from here. So as long as you have this setting up at the top called auto size turned off, you can actually scroll back down here. And for instance, if we wanted to annotate air, we could come in here and actually annotate this chart. So here's that level that we were talking about before. I'm actually going to draw that in here with a trend line. There we go. We can see it's still struggling with that breakout level, kind of lower breakout level. That'd be what I would call the initial level. But we can see actually did recover that level today, kind of closed right around that 48 level. So might leave that one as a tier 1 or as a 1-star chart. So anyways, you've got the ability to edit these names. You've got the ability to add comments to any of these. You've got the ability to annotate any of these charts as well. And as you might have noticed, you even have the ability to delete any of these charts. So especially as I get down to the bottom with those 3-star charts, if any of those have really broken down, let's see if we scroll way down this page, all the way down to some of the 3-star charts. There's a lot of charts in this list. There have been a lot of setups out there, I gotta say. Some of the 3-star charts that might be breaking down. There's one, Landstar, really got rejected pretty ugly at the breakout level there, and has been cruising lower now, especially in the last few sessions. So let's say I wanted to actually delete this one from the list. All I got to do is hover over that chart and hit that delete button, that little trash can icon in the corner of the chart. So super easy to manage these lists right from here. Again, you can use this starring system by editing the name. You can leave your comments. You can delete charts right from here, even add your annotations if you want to add or update any of those. Chartbook and ChartList view both work really similarly. Those are kind of my go-tos for managing my tier 1 watch list and moving things through this whole kind of system. So anyways, that is our show for today. A bit of a different show, a bit of a look into kind of how I manage my personal watch lists. Now, in my case, I do primarily look at stocks in the S&P 1500. That's kind of one of my filters. I like to keep my list a little bit narrower, although 1500 stocks is a lot to manage, so not exactly the narrowest. But what I've found is that this system of having these 3 different watch lists and using that starring system to kind of keep track of where I want each specific symbol to be, that system works beautifully. It allows me to just kind of maintain these lists of interesting setups, stocks that are working, stocks that are setting up for a breakout, those kinds of things that I personally look for on the long side. I'm able to maintain those lists very easily. The other nice thing is that if I do pick something up and actually buy it, it's right there in my watch list. It's already annotated, probably already has some comments on it. And once I actually take a new position, buy a new stock or a new fund, I can actually just move it into my all positions list, the chart list in my account that has all of my active positions in it. So seamlessly kind of moving things between your watch list, your position lists, all of that works incredibly well for me. Personally, having this 3-tiered system has been a game changer in the last few years, and I really do kind of think about things in that order. Right, there's charts that are just kind of setting up that are interesting, things that I want to maybe keep an eye on, whether it's short term or long term. That's where the dump bucket comes into handy. Now, once I actually start to think that something might be coming up on a time to trade it, a time to buy it, time to invest, that stocking list becomes really handy. That's where I'm really kind of watching things more closely. That's the one that I'm reviewing definitely on a daily basis. And then once it comes time to actually buy something, you need to put that in a space where you can say, I'm waiting on an entry. I'm really actively thinking about buying this specific stock or this specific ETF. So that's where you can move it into that buying list, and that becomes your really small list that you're tracking. That works incredibly well for me. Hopefully gives you some ideas of how to use chart lists to manage your own watch lists as well. So I want to thank you for joining me on the show today. Hopefully you've had some fun seeing how I use some of these tools and features that we talk about every week. Speaking of every week, we do this show every Friday, again, 3 p.m. Eastern time, up on the live channel, also up on our YouTube channel, also up on StockChartsTV.com. So you got lots and lots of ways to watch. But every Friday, really what we're doing is digging into tools, digging into features, talking process, talking how all this stuff comes together, but ultimately trying to get you more value out of stock charts. That's our mission here every Friday. Just showing you as much as we can, talking about different ways to use all of these things that we're building and releasing, things that have existed for a long time as well, like some of those sharp charts features. So if you want to get more value out of stock charts, this is the show to watch every Friday. Again, my name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com. It's been wonderful to be with you. I'll see you again soon for another episode of the show. But until then, chart on, my friends. Hey, Grayson Roze here with Stock Charts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.